Now, I wanted to have some fun on this one because, we hadn't really got to talk about this on the show yet. But MJF had a little tweet a couple weeks ago. And I thought this was a very interesting topic to bring up and kind of get everybody's perspective on this one. So this was his tweet. The more wrestling fans become bloodthirsty for these dangerous feats in the ring, the more the wrestlers will hurt themselves trying to curry fans' favor. Wrestlers, the fans don't understand that at any given point we can be paralyzed from the neck down or even die from a maneuver as simple as a body slam. By the way, fans reading this, body slams hurt, every move hurts. They will keep moving the goalpost of what they deem is, quote, good. So before you do something stupid, consider this. Their tweet about your banger going to pay for your medical bills? Do the right thing. Go in that ring with the intention of winning the match and leaving the ring the same way you entered it. Get the winner's purse and get out. Mm-hmm. Now, he deleted this tweet after catching some backlash on it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know why. Because to me, that makes a lot of sense. Stu, when you hear that, and you work with indie organizations where guys are probably doing some pretty wild stuff, what do you think of MJF's thoughts on that?
As crazy as it sounds, I agree with MJF. I've always heard, and I've heard this from, veterans, from legends. If you're going to do a move, there's got to be a reason. It's got to be part of the story. Don't just do a move just to wow the crowd or whatever. It's got to make sense in the story. And I get that people, that wrestlers want to, get the big pop. I get that. And we see it all the time with guys like Ray Phoenix and, Commander here. And we saw El Hijo del Vikingo, lately. But even guys like Sammy Guevara, and I've called so many of his matches back in the day. The moves they do, and look, these guys are professional athletes. That's the way I've always treated them. They are so well trained to do what they do in that ring. But, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. We have seen when wrestlers, and it could be nothing more than just a freak occurrence, get injured or even seriously injured, trying a move or something like that. And so I like I said, I lean towards agreeing with MJF that it's got to make sense, and it's almost more important that you get out of there relatively healthy rather than trying to wow the crowd with some 450 twisting, plancha. So, like that, I think I lean towards what MJF said.
Dave, what do you think about that?
First off, how was he catching flack from who on this?
Welcome to social media, buddy.
Oh, it was just the fans.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I look at it like, we had Bodie on last week, and he talked about the time he took the stakes to the head, and he said, why did he do that? It didn't move his character forward, didn't move his career forward. And him being 15, and thinking that way, I think that's the way you got to think going forward. And I've heard Joe DeFalco say numerous times to people, how does that move your career forward? The possibility of getting injured, is it worth it? You got to be safe out there. I think as fans, we're sick. We want to see want to see it all. Take it to another level, And so the performers, they think that they have to take it to the next level to be relevant. And we're sick as fans, so we push that agenda.
Garth, you're a super fan. What do you think?
Okay, so obviously the high impact, high velocity, twisty, twirly, all it, or as we like to jokingly call it, the flippy shit.
Yeah,
it does pop the crowd. But I absolutely agree with what everybody's saying. And you don't want to do a move for move's sake. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to watch a really good technical match with sprinkle that stuff on there as kind of a seasoning, not as the main course. So,
yeah, and Joe, let me get you in on this too.
It's frying bacon.
Yeah, something's going on back
Turn
here.
Turn your bacon over, Joe.
Yeah, flip that bacon, Joe. Give us your thoughts on that real quick, Joe.
Well, in some cases, the Young Bucks, they've been doing that for years. So some people have to do it. And for relevancy, you go check out death matches. Go check out GCW. There's a reason why 1,000 people are going to be squeezed into the Silver Nugget, because they know they're going to get light tubes and paned glass. And everybody has to do what they feel is necessary to make money in the business. Whether you agree with it, I agree with it, everybody's going to do something. And the bottom line is, would Nick Gage be where he is today if he didn't take light tubes? No, probably not, because he's not going to get a job wrestling because he's as good as Bryan Danielson. Correct. So there's so many aspects of the business that, right, wrong, or indifferent, the Bodie thing, he wasn't even involved in the match. It wasn't even a match that he was in. It was like, what are you even thinking of doing? Like, who gave you that bad advice? Right. You're 15. There should have been adults in the building. Yeah. Cody was there and all the other stuff. And I remember asking him, I'm like, man, Cody, you always seem to want to get involved in the inner workings. How did you let him do it? Well, his mom said it was okay. And it's like,
oh, man.
He had his permission slip signed. Right.
Yeah. And it's like, it was a match Cody had with that Dr. Redacted, whoever that is, but that's all that guy does. It's like, hey, skewers. It's like Bodie's not even in the match, and, he's taken that for whatever reason, I have no idea. But in wrestling, everything is relevant as long as there's an audience for it. So are you going to want to work for $50, or are you going to do a death match where somebody might pay you $500? And as I've learned with a lot of wrestlers, they don't have other jobs. Their income is, say, wrestling, so they're going to try to maximize what they're going to do. Some people like pain, so some people like the roar of the crowd. And regardless of what MJF says, in the perfect world, that makes a ton of sense. But this is the wrestling world. It comes from a carny background. So people are going to do whatever it takes to have somebody clap. Just like our wrestlers, they're always looking for validation from anybody who will give it to them. Right. Whether it's the other students, whether it's somebody in the back, whether it's a fan, it doesn't matter. They want validation, and they're going to do it whatever it takes to get it. And in a lot of cases, they aren't going to make the $500 to do it. They're going to do some crazy stuff, and they might get a $20 bill.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective, Joe. Thank you on that. And and I think part of the issue on a lot of these spots that guys do is you're trying to get the viral moment, and like WWE, for example, lives on that. Guys, they put up that minute video that is going to get 1 million views, and so you have to make a moment somehow. And a lot of guys are so desperate to get to that point where they're going to make it to WWE, they're going to make it to AEW, or they want to get a ton of hits on their channel, that you have to do that. Sometimes have to do that one thing that maybe you don't want to do to get people to pay attention to you. It's a really interesting balance, Stu. I mean, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on what Joe said.
The viral moment, and it's been one of the criticisms, I'll say, of WWE. They're more for the moment than they are the actual competition, the championships, whatever. And I agree with Joe. Look, there's these guys, like you said, sometimes this is their only income. They don't have a shoot job, for lack of a better term. We just had as I said, I do commentary for Inspire After Death here in Austin. We just had a death match at our last show, and it was the main event for our top title. In fact, Casanova Valentine was in town for this, and it's one of those things you got to find the balance. That's basically what it is. That match, it was crazy. It was, they wrestled all over the venue. It was just, nuts. But at the same time, I can recognize that while they're using things like broken glass, a flat screen TV, and other implements, they're doing it, kind of the old adage in pro wrestling, make it look worse than it really is. And that's what these guys did. Yeah, there was a little bit of blood. Yeah, they dusted each other open a little bit. But in terms of a death match, it seemed like not this, it was almost, for lack of better term, it was a little safer than most. They got out of there, both guys walked away. They had cuts on their heads, but that was about it. And I think it, again, trying to find that balance where you capture the crowd, but at the same time you take care of yourself and the person you're in the ring with. That's the key. You got to find that balance.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff there. I'm glad we brought that question up. It's some great perspectives from a lot of guys who are in the middle of the industry.